Bill, it's been a while, but we got you on Real Vision eventually. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm great. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
So listen, you've been in this space for a long time and you're new to many people, but not to others. But let's go back and just go through a bit of your journey, how the hell you got here. Where did you start your career?
This kind of circular path of I worked in cryptography when crypto meant cryptography, not cryptocurrencies. I worked on Wall Street. I was at Goldman. Kind of went through a phase of like learning all about financial markets, fixed income, built trading systems, designs, portfolio management systems. But then I got the internet bug and ended up joining Netscape pretty early around the time of the IPO. And that's more or less been my 20-year journey now, is just really focused on the internet eating the world kind of mantra that I've always had in my mind. And the things that have always resonated for me is how the internet can basically act as a great leveler and democratize access to anything, whether it's entertainment and media or now financial services, which has been, my big passion for the last 10 years. And have had a whole bunch of investments and startups in that area around payments, remittances, investing, now culminating with Abra, of course.
So talk to me about your crypto journey. So
yeah.
You start with cryptography, you're then in finance. So it's kind of, you're obviously going to meet this space at some point. When did you meet it and how?
So now keep in mind, when I was a cryptographer at the CIA, I didn't know anything about banking. It wasn't even really interesting to me. Of course, I made no money, so it didn't really matter anyway. I mean, I think one of my sons who works at a movie theater makes more money per hour than I made working for the CIA as a cryptographer. So the idea of dealing with money was so foreign to me, it didn't even factor into anything. And that obviously changed later, getting to banking and then, exits and startups, whatever. But it was a long route. I mean, I first started getting into banking when somebody recruited me back in my NASA days from Goldman, because they connected the dots on my math background and said, this would be amazing for you if you just dug in a little, and they pushed me and I did. So that was the start of a really long journey. And then the second part was payments. And so at Netscape, we built the first credit card gateway for the internet to actually formally accept an encrypted payment. And then I ended up building like a whole key management business in Europe for Netscape for PTTs or telecoms that wanted to basically figure out a key management strategy, not dissimilar to the discussions we have today about, not your keys, not your crypto kind of thing. And then that basically led me down the rabbit hole of payments and banking, spent a lot of time in developing markets, learning about how regulation and government, especially in the middle of this whole choke point thing. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with what happened with this project choke point that the US government was basically executing to block services like in the remittance world and arms sales that they didn't like, totally legal services, but they basically cut off their access to bank accounts. And we're still dealing with the hangover of that. So in the meantime, I'm trying to build banking services in developing markets for the bottom of the pyramid, hitting all kinds of roadblocks that are just nonsense for people trying to store $25 in an account. And that led me, this is maybe a year after I had read the Bitcoin white paper, to say, okay, I'm tired of this. There has to be a better way. At that point, I had already personally started going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I had done a TED talk back.
What year was this?
2012 was when I did a TED talk at the main TED conference in early 2012, I think it was. So about 9 years ago. And Bitcoin, I mean, nobody in the audience had even heard of it. Silk Road was booming at that point. Bitcoin was at about $2, maybe $2.50. I was, you could still mine on a good personal computer at that point. And so it was just a totally different time. But my interest was more about banking than store value at the time, because I said, hey, this solves a lot of problems, especially with all the middlemen problems I was dealing with in the remittance world and the banking world. And that really pushed me towards this model. Of course, later on, my interests evolved dramatically as we now into DeFi and store value. Bitcoin story is digital gold. What's happening with, like I said, Ethereum 2.0 and this whole kind of just shift to moving every aspect of financial services into some type of Ethereum-based smart contract is just incredibly interesting to me. And so it's been a long journey of basically taking everything I know. I feel like it's the first job I'm qualified for, because after all these years, I have all these things that I understand around internet and marketing and banking and consumer internet and cryptography. And now all of a sudden I get to use it all in one job. It's kind of like a dream. I actually can't believe I get to do this most days, to be honest with you. And not every day, but most days. And so that's, sorry for long answer. That's kind of the long circular route that it took me to get into cryptocurrencies and why it's so interesting to me. And our mission at Abra is particularly around the democratization of access.
So why did you talk to me a bit about Abra? How did you set it up? So you go from like, I get this is interesting. I'm interested in payments.
Yeah.
What made you then?
Right. I wanted to build a crypto-based banking service. At the time, it wasn't crypto, it was Bitcoin. I wanted to build a Bitcoin-based banking service where Bitcoin would be the core so that I could, in theory, eliminate middlemen, right? And you could have the option of storing your own keys. You could send money person to person. You could invest in other assets. Today, we call those things like synthetics. So I had this like big vision idea of building a banking application with Bitcoin at its core. Now that's evolved significantly since then, where I would say Abra is one of the leading like global retail crypto banking apps. But the original vision was very, very simple. I wanted a single app that would work anywhere in the world where anybody could access a single app to send money, store dollars, store Bitcoin, send dollars, eventually invest in any kind of asset and using Bitcoin. Right. So I've had this long held belief that Bitcoin is going to become a core component to collateralizing different asset classes over time. And that was one of the original tenets for Abra, which we don't talk about much because it's actually obviously from a retail perspective, very complex. But in the background, it's always been a core kind of technology component of what we do. But today it's evolved. I mean, literally it's in trading and investing in over 100 cryptos, earning interest on your dollars, stable coins, as well as crypto, borrowing against your crypto balance, really moving in the direction of being that full bank for cryptocurrency. And ironically, now, even though we have lots of people with 6 and 7 figure deposits in Abra, we also have people in the bottom of the pyramid countries putting $4, $5, $6 in Abra in a single app. And I say ironically, because it was really the developing markets that pushed me to do this in the first place. And in the meantime, we've got every single aspect of the income pyramid or component of the income pyramid using this one single app. I don't know if there's any other app in the world, banking or otherwise, maybe WhatsApp, that has that gamut of income and kind of user profiles that we do now.
So your vision really is in the end is to bring a bank into that for everybody.
Yes.
So anybody who has a phone, you have a bank.
Yes, that's right. And I think crypto is the future of banking. And at this point, I don't see how I just don't see a scenario where that's not true. I really don't see how cryptocurrencies aren't at the center of banking in the future. Right now it's on the edge, but I think it's moving towards the center and it will take over.
So when you go back and speak to your old mates from Goldman, as we all do they get it now? And how do they perceive it?
Yeah, they get the digital gold store of value story for sure. It's hard, partially because you can't argue with $1 trillion market cap, and nobody thinks Bitcoin is going to zero now. I think there's myriad discussions around, where does it really fit in? Is it a fad? Is it going to be better technology? But nobody thinks that's going away, right? As a matter of fact, I did have dinner with a colleague who's on the management committee. And we had this exact same discussion. And then the second part of the discussion was, well, where is DeFi going? What does DeFi mean? Is it really going to work? Can it scale? And so that's probably similar to discussions I was having 5 years ago about Bitcoin, right? Will Bitcoin even work? That was the narrative 5 years ago. Does this work? Right? Is it just for drugs? Is it just for the dark web? And now we're having analogous discussions about DeFi. Will it scale? Is it legal? What happens when these contracts are hacked, et cetera, et cetera? All good questions, all valid questions, but we haven't evolved yet to the narrative or the equivalent narrative for Bitcoin. But I think it's going to happen even faster with DeFi and all these kind of decentralized apps that are going to come down the pipe, whether they're on Ethereum or Cardano, faster than what happened with Bitcoin.
Hey, if you like this clip, be sure to check out the full interview and more only on realvision.com/crypto. It's 100% free. Sign up now.